Hey, what's up you guys, the Curious Owl here, and today I will be sharing with you guys my Battle of the Bookish TBR. So this is going to be separate from my overall January TBR because I do have a couple of books that are not necessarily for this particular readathon that were from my D&D TBR. Or were other books I had decided I might want to read over the course of the month, but I didn't want to do like an overall month TBR just because I don't know necessarily what else I'm going to get to outside of D&D and like a particular readathon that I'm going to do. So I just wanted to make this the easiest I possibly could and only do 2 TBR videos for January. So this month is the first month we are doing the rebranded House Cupathon readathon that is now called Battle of the Bookish. If you missed the announcement video that we did, I will make sure to leave a card in the video and leave a link in the description to that video as well. It is a readathon that is based on basically reading as many books as you can to earn certain points that could either fit prompts that we have to earn additional points or just read books as much as you'd like and earn points for your team. I'm so excited we're doing this again because we were really stumped after last round of what to do when we decided to rebrand everything, and I cannot be more excited for how this one's gonna turn out. So I am the leader for Team Sci-Fi, which is not necessarily like my most favorite genre, but because Ara and I both enjoyed fantasy, we decided that somebody should do something different. So I decided to take on sci-fi because it is a genre I want to get more into, but it's not necessarily my favorite genre either. But we have 6 prompts that you can do over the course of the readathon. 3 of them are prompts that everybody is able to do, and then the other 3 are team specific. So depending on what team you decide to go with, you have another 3 prompts that are specifically for your team. The team prompts are worth more additional points than the general ones are because they are specifically for your team. The general prompts are worth 50 points apiece on top of your page points. That is all explained in the announcement video. Your team prompts are worth 100 points on top of your page points. Again, all explained in the announcement video. So without further ado, let me get into the books I plan on reading. Now, because there is no doubling up with these prompts that we decided to do for this round, because there are so few prompts, I have basically 6 books. Some of these books are books that are on my D&D TBR that you may have already seen by the time this video goes out. I think it should be out before this one, so you might see some of these in that video and in this one. But let's start off with the general prompts, which there are 3. These again are worth 50 points by themselves, and then on top of that you get your page points. So the first one is to read an LGBTQ IAP plus book, whether that is with a book that has those kinds of characters or is written by an LGBTQ IAP plus author. This I am deciding to go with Felix Ever After by Kaysen Callender. This is a story about a trans boy written by a trans man, and it's basically a coming of age story about this character who gets unfortunately outed by somebody in their community, I believe. He kind of has to traverse the whole way of becoming this new person and having this new identity and essentially like just trying to traverse life with a lot of the stigma and a lot of the hatred that can come with being a trans person. I've been wanting to read this for a long time, and so when I thought of this prompt, this was the first thing I thought of when it came to my LGBTQ plus books, because not only is it Own Voices, but it is also one of the most beloved books that's currently on BookTube, and I'm so excited to read it. Truthfully, it was between this one and Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas, but who knows, maybe I will pick up both of them this month. It's going to depend on how the month goes exactly, but this one for sure I wanted to get to first because I just feel like this is going to really make me feel all kinds of warm and fuzzy on the inside. The next prompt is to just read a book. Now, this could have been doubled up with a lot of stuff, but we wanted to make it separate just in case people just wanted to read something that they wanted to mood read that might not necessarily fit any of the other prompts. So for this one, I am going to be reading Bridge of Clay by Marcus Suzak. This is one of the books that is on my D&D TBR, and I'm a little hesitant to read this one, I will say, because for one, it's a chonker. This was for my big book prompt for my D&D game, and this was the one I wanted to go with over The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon, but this one's still pretty lengthy, and I have heard that a lot of people were really disappointed with this one because everybody seemed to have loved Marcus's first book, The Book Thief. This one, to a lot of people though, was pretty subpar, but I don't know. I'm kind of somebody that tends to have an unpopular opinion a lot of times when it comes to books that most people don't seem to like for one reason or another. So I think I'd have to do a little bit more research after reading the book on what exactly people didn't like about it, and then make my opinion kind of from there based on what I had already read. But I'm still very excited to get to this one, have been wanting to get to this one for a long time, and just never got around to doing it. This year is all about me basically just trying to find as many books to read as I can that I've been putting off for too long, and this was one of them. The next book is to reread a favorite book. Now, this one is not necessarily a favorite. It's gonna depend on how this story goes, but it is something I am rereading and is part of a reread series that I've been doing for the last several months. And that is book number 8 in the Thirst series by Christopher Pike, The Shadow of Death. Now, this is the second full-length novel in the series, because if you watched any of my reading vlog reviews for this series, the last book I read in December, which was The Eternal Dawn, was the very first full-length novel that was released about 15-16 years after the original 6 books in the series, the original 6 novellas, basically. This is going to be piggybacking right off of the end of The Eternal Dawn, which, oh my god, I am so excited for, because a major plot twist happened at the end of The Eternal Dawn that I was left quaking about, and I'm just, I can't wait, because it was actually something I do remember the first time having read this series in high school, being something I absolutely loved about this series. So I am hoping that this one does live up to the expectations I have, but we'll have to see. It's the second to last book in the series, so it's possible it could let me down, but I'm remaining hopeful. Now let's move on to Team Sci-Fi's prompt. So for Team Sci-Fi, we also have 3 prompts. The first one is to read a book that is set in space, and that basically can mean anything from like a void that just doesn't seem to be on Earth by any means. It's kind of just like a weird Twilight Zone-y kind of thing almost, or it basically just can't be on Earth. So for this one, I am going to be picking up Gemina by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. I read Illuminae actually during the last round that we did for the House Cupathon back in June of 2020, and I really loved it. And I loved also that each of the books in this series are more so companion novels, because you don't feel like you have to read them all back to back to back. So in this one in particular follows 2 different characters than there was in the first book, Illuminae. So that makes it so much more easy to want to go back to this series. And I am also having a goal in 2021 to try to finish series that I have started over the last several years, because I have a problem with finishing series. It's just a thing. I don't know why. But this also is a very fun mixed media based book, and it looks chunky, but I was surprised with how quick I was able to get through Illuminae because of the fact that it's mixed media. So a lot of times things go by way quicker than you think they do. The next prompt is to read a book with the moon or stars on the cover. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be something related to sci-fi. You can have it where it's a science fiction book and it has moon and stars on the cover. It could be a fantasy that has moon and stars on the cover. It just has to have the moon and stars on the cover is basically it. So for this one, I'm going with something that's on my Kindle that has actually been on here for a long time, like pretty much almost as long as I've been on BookTube, and that is Justice Buried by Hilary Thompson. Now, I read this book a long time ago. It was like one of the first books I got to be able to purchase through Off Tones Publishing after I was able to start reviewing some of their books for a while, and it was really cheap. All of the books and the novellas in this series were like 99 cents a piece almost. So the thing with this though is I'm not only going to be reading that, I'm going to read a prequel that is for this story, which is Stian's Mistake. This is like a prequel to what exactly happens in the first novel, Justice Buried. Then I want to read Justice Buried, and then I want to read the next novella, which is Lexan's Pledge, and then I want to read book 2, which is Balance Broken. So I'm basically going through this whole thing, but I remember that these books were really short. At least the first one I remember having been very short, and the novellas are going to be easy to fly through as well. So I think I can read all 4 of these pretty well, and like all of them have like stars on the cover in some capacity. They have constellations on there because it's very focused on the zodiac, I believe, is this series. So I thought this would work, and maybe I'll get some extra points for the fact that I'm reading technically 4 books for this. But the way that I'm actually setting this up is like I'm reading the 2 novellas and the first book just for page points, and the prompt is going for Balance Broken. So there's that. Balance Broken is the one that's going to be for this prompt. That's what I'm going to get the 100 points for the prompt, but the other 3 that I'm reading are going to be just for page points in general. And then the last book is to read a book that delves into a topic of science you're interested in. Now, I am going a little different with this one because I want to read Danse Macabre by Stephen King. This is the nonfiction collection of essays, I believe, that explore the idea of the psychology behind people who love horror books, movies, anything like that, games, probably not, but it would probably extend to games. This was written in like the 1980s, I believe. This was the book that was written and published after Cujo. And the reason I want to read this is not only because it's part of my Stephen King reading series, but because I am very interested in psychology and I love everything to do with understanding the human brain and why exactly people do things the way they do, or why are people so interested in certain things. You know, we have this whole thing about how people sometimes feel like they can't look away from a train wreck because it's so horrifying, but you can't physically look away because of some kind of fight or flight instinct almost. And so this book is basically looking into, from Stephen King's perspective, of why do people seem to like horror, because you would think that people would be terrified of it and run away from it, but there are so many people who are like obsessed with horror. And I think I've gotten to like it a lot more as I've gotten older. I still can't watch horror movies. That's the one thing I still can't do, but I love horror games. I love horror books. Like, give it to me. But when it comes to like watching horror movies, I am the biggest fucking baby in the world. You cannot get me to watch them. Like, it just doesn't happen. So those are all the books I plan on reading for the Battle of the Bookish. Now, like I said, I do have other books planned that are not necessarily specifically for this TBR, but they will all still count. Because the readathon is month long and it counts for any books that you read over the month. You will get page points for whatever you read as long as you give it to us in the Discord, and we can track the points. So it's pretty much fair game. These prompts are just really for fun, and if you don't get to all of them, it's not that big of a deal. It's just kind of a way to get some extra points for your teams, because we want to kind of incentivize people being able to read a lot, because there is a bit of a payoff at the end of it. So thank you all so much for joining me in this video. If you guys are participating in Battle of the Bookish, let me know down in the comments below what team you're on and what are some books you're thinking of reading over the course of the month. Are you a mood reader, or do you actually like the TBR setup where we have prompts that you can pick from? Personally, I'm a prompt person. I prefer that, but I am a bit of a mood reader in that I will pick whatever it is I'm feeling that fits that prompt kind of thing. So I'm kind of like somewhere in the middle, but it's a fun time anyway. I hope you guys will join us. The Discord will be linked down in the description for you guys, as well as our Instagram, where we will be hosting Instagram live sprints, and we will be doing a live show at the end of January for the readathon. And I hope that everybody who participates has a wonderful time. I'm very excited to see how everybody does over the course of the readathon. It's always been a very fun thing for us, and we just can't wait to get it back up and running and have so much fun with it. Thank you all so much for joining me. If you guys did enjoy this video, please do give it a big thumbs up. And if you're not already and you'd like to be, hit the button down below and subscribe to become an owlet in our flock. And I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.